Good morning. These are my predictions for 2026. These are the fashion trends that I would bet money on. The first one is Moto. I think because of Rosalia's Moto Mommy being so successful last year, I was really surprised to see that Moto didn't make a bit of an appearance. But I think especially with Berghain coming out and that being kind of successful, and then the movie Pillion coming out, that movie looks so good. But Alexander Skarsgård in the Moto jacket, if you haven't seen it, I think is going to make Moto jackets very popular, and leather gear. Speaking of movies, I think that Gothic, especially Gothic grunge, is going to make an appearance as well. I've seen a couple of people kind of predict this since Charlie XCX is still like on top of the world right now, and Brat was so popular. I think that the Wuthering Heights soundtrack that she's doing is also going to make people want to do gothic, kind of grungy looking out. I think black lace will come into play here a lot. The movie is also starring Jacob Elordi right after Frankenstein, so I'm really expecting that movie to be pretty popular. Charlie XCX, she has the pulse. The pulse, she's right here. Okay, she knows what's going on. Okay, she has the pulse. Extraterrestrial is going to also probably, maybe, Tom Brown and Chanel. They both had extraterrestrial elements. Like if you've seen the latest Chanel show, Matthew Blasy's first show with Chanel, and there were all those beautiful planets. And Tom Brown had a lot of very futuristic elements and aliens in his show, and so I could definitely see futuristic elements kind of coming into play here. Clothes, but also for like events and things, and people showing up dressed in kind of very futuristic styles. Middle class Americana is on its way in. I think like middle class Americana nostalgia. I think the Dior show was so there. The Dior show was based off of, or at least sort of nostalgic of Basquiat's dressing in Basquiat's style. And I think that, especially with the way that things are going nowadays, people are kind of nostalgic for economic security. I think this will be very popular in America, and as such, it will kind of expand to other countries. But I think that because things will get rough, I think that more people will be nostalgic for a time when they could afford things and there was more mobility promised towards people. So I think that more people will start to lean in on old styles of dressing, not too old, but like more 90s, maybe 80s style. Um, Maybe further, but I doubt that it will be like you're going to see people out in like 50s dresses or flappers dresses, lean into the fantasy. I think that we're going to see a return of a lot of vintage polos, a lot of vintage like Y2K outfits. I know that Y2K made a huge splash this year, but I think that this time it'll be like more muted, more everyday wear than we're seeing. Like we saw a lot of bling last year or this year. So I think we're going to see more kind of calm primary colors, like more saturated tone. There's going to be more talk about perfume and investigations into perfume. I've kind of already seen people talk about it nowadays. I think that using style and fashion as means of status symboling is becoming a little bit more difficult. I think that people will start to be using scent and perfume as a way of signaling status in a more discreet kind of undercover kind of way. This will only work, of course, in person, but I think online it's already kind of starting to become a trend. People talking about perfume. We've already seen people describe kind of notes of perfumes on TikTok, on YouTube. We're seeing more people talk about perfume and how to pick a perfume and how to have a signature scent. But I think that there's still a lot more to go with this conversation. Layering perfumes, solid perfumes, like all this is stuff that I think will become a more part of a more niche discussion, which I'll get into like nicheness in a minute. But yeah, those are some of the ones that I think are kind of happening or are set to happen. You're seeing low saturated blocks of color. A lot of people that I've seen in their trend predictions have all put like bright, non or undersaturated colors in big blocks of color. I'm not a huge fan of it, but I do see a lot of people kind of starting to lean into it. Um, the last year and people seeing so many maximalist trends and layering bag charms, personalizing outfits, structureless, flowy, lots of movement. I think that that was what happened a lot, what we saw a lot of in the 2026 spring shows were very structureless, very flowy, lots of movement. There were the tassels, there was the very like lighter dresses. I think that there was definitely some heavier pieces, like that one Chanel skirt that kind of had its moment. But even then, seeing just the brushes of tassels go back and forth had so much movement to it that you just couldn't keep your eyes off of it. So I think that we're going to see a lot more of that uh, enter stores, and because of that, we're also going to see a lot more sheer clothing. Shears can be very, very light. You can layer them, you can add colors to them, but tassels, we're going to see a lot of feathers. Tassels are pretty easy to make, so I could definitely see department stores starting to make a lot of bags with tassels, sweaters with tassels, and I think that it can be done in kind of a cute, chic way. I think that the layering of the tassels, um, with like very silky textures were really cute. I think that you don't want to look like a carpet though, which is the key. Um, Feathers, I think that feathers will kind of have a bit of a comeback. Don't quote me on that, but I see a lot of anti-AI, like only a human could make this kind of punk clothing, a lot of DIY looking clothing as AI kind of infiltrates every single facet of human imagination. I think that people care a lot about creativity, and that's something that people have shown a lot with 2025, and I think that's going to definitely continue as AI gets more aggressively inserted into everything that we do. And so showing that you have your own original thoughts and ideas and that you're not afraid to be kind of like out of the norm and wear things that are kind of weird, disturbing, but obviously created by a human is, um, you know, I could just definitely see that as a trend. I could definitely see, like Maison Margiela. I love Maison Margiela, but clothes that are tailored well, clothes with human choices, like a lot of details, patterns, tradition are going to be making its way in. Just so long as those patterns are like uniform and obviously not created with AI in a way that's like distorted the more that you go out. Um, I think that Sashiko and Kanta are going to be coming more in. I think that Kartik research became got a lot of attention, and I could definitely like they're beautiful clothes. Um, and Sentimental Craftcore was kind of people were talking about it. There's a great video on it that I'll link. Sentimental Craftcore is about kind of showing the tension and the care that you have with your clothes. People get more and more fed up with the government and sort of the effects of Western imperialism. I think that embracing Eastern and just non-Western cultures will become more common. I got lipstick all over my new mic. Okay. I hope that you're enjoying the new mic. I am. I am. Okay, wear, tear, and repair will definitely will be seeing more of as people can't really afford to get new clothes. So adding details to your clothes will become more popular. I think that showing care for your clothes is going to be a lot more respected. That locality fashion will become more popular, and by that I mean things with like t-shirts from your favorite stores or merch from your favorite local businesses, I think that will become very popular. I think that things that were made by artists will become more popular. I've started to buy a lot more from artists this Christmas season. I've seen a lot of people only promote small businesses on their gift guides, which I made a video of. If you want to go check that out, you know, no pressure, of course. DIY editorial stuff. I've seen so much of it. And I think everyone who has everyone who's seen it without the capabilities of making something like that is also very happy and very pleased to see that. Um, I think more highly respected, and I think that people get over the kind of weirdness that they've attributed to, you know, I've never seen that. I've never seen people wear stuff like that, Okay. I genuinely think that sentimental craft core and handmade things are going to emerge as less of a trend and more of a generational fashion assimilation. I think that when people think about our generation, they're going to think about crochet and knitting and all the. I I really hope it does. I hope it does. I think it's so cute. I think that people really enjoy the process of making clothes, and you know, I do want to make a video on whether or not crafting and making your own clothes is better for the environment, or is it just like capitalism with extra steps? I approve. I personally, I vibe with the craft core. I vibe with sashiko and kanta and crocheting and knitting and embroidery and beading and all that good stuff. And I love that every once in a while there becomes a new trend, because it's not just about the way that things look in that case. It's about the fact that there's less of um less exploitation, right? Because even though the beads that are still being made and the threads that are still being made and the clothes, like the acrylic for the yarn or the wool for the yarn, still requires human labor. You are making sure that the human labor that goes into actually making a piece or a garment or a patch or whatever isn't like for someone who's going to get paid $1.50 an hour, um like you're doing it for yourself, and you're also making sure that you have a sentimental attachment to something that you're less likely, hopefully, to throw away, and that all those garments are made especially to your measurements and what you need. You're learning a skill, you're pacing your mind. Like, I think that there's harm in it, but we really do live in a world where harm is every. Ah, love it here. We're going to lean more into sort of ethnic styles over as a way kind of rebelling against white supremacy rising in a lot of different nations, particularly the US, which is where I am. So take that into consideration, that charms could make a comeback. I think it'd be really cute. I think that um, charms are really cool because a lot of the time people don't buy a ton of charms, like on a charm bracelet, um, all at once, which, I mean, nowadays you could just like go on Temu and buy a fully stacked charm bracelet that you can even take the charms off of, or you could buy like a packet of charms and then just pick the ones that you want, and it'll be like $1.20, and then you just throw the rest away. But I think that with charms, most of the time, before the current neoliberal neoliberal economy that we're in, charms were something that you would give to other people and that you would get and that you would receive, and it would be like a symbol of community and authenticity. Like, people know you, people love you, people wanted to show that your experiences were reflected in how you style yourself every day. So I think that would be really cute. People just giving themselves and giving each other little charms to symbolize what they've done and who they are. I think it'd be very cute. Just so long as it doesn't turn into a mode where like you're buying it like Pandora's bracelets. Like ideally, people just buying charms from different companies, small businesses. Bro, get on this small business thing that I'm getting on. Like little charms and things. I think it would be so cute. Intellectual niches will become more in which isn't like it hasn't already, you know, had its day from the moment that like Book Talk took off and like Bella Hadid walking around with books, you know. But I think that'll get to a point more where your independent inquiry, your independent genius, you know, you're so smart. You're so smart. You're such a genius. Oh my god. Um, I think that people like showing off things that are more specific to their interests, so rather than like just saying like, "Oh, I love reading. Oh, I love blah 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 blah." I think we're gonna see a lot more of like, if you know, you know, kind of kind of content and kind of fashion to follow. Someone quoting Nietzsche, but you're gonna see people like you may not see people quoting Sylvia Plath, but you may see stuff about like the fig tree or stuff like that. You know, it'll die off pretty quickly when people start to see this trend becoming insanely popular and then they try and make this trend happen for them, and then they realize that their interest in their hobbies and activities aren't that deep, and then people are going to get into fights about like, oh, people think that they're so smart or they're so into philosophy, but their favorite philosopher is Nietzsche or something, you know, like there's gonna be like, as much as there are going to be people who try and make community over knowing things, over having interests in things, there are going to be people who, you know, uh, don't like that and need to feel like they're the smartest person in the room and they're the most niche person in the room and they blah 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 blah. Blah. I hate that. I hate that. I this whole trend that comes out every once in a while about people trying to make a community and people trying to show their interest and people trying to be more authentic about the things that they're interested in, even if they don't really know that much about it. They're just trying to make community. They're just trying to get into that algorithm and to know and to meet people and to talk about the things that they're passionate about. And even if they're not totally the most immersed and they don't like know everything about whatever they're interested in, people just want to push them out because they want to feel like the smartest in the room. And so it's just like a trend, like a phoenix, but rather than a beautiful, graceful bird, it's like a half-plucked chicken that just keeps on getting killed and then revived and then killed and then revived. And if you let it just live a little bit and let people have their interests and be bad at like or not as knowledgeable, they're not the most knowledgeable. Like people should be allowed to be interested in whatever they're interested in and grow without having to be like an educator on that thing. You know, like people. Okay. Okay. Just yeah. It's so sad. Anyway, we're gonna see more small brands. I think that we're gonna see more people trying to show interest in fashion beyond like more obvious kind of giant LVMH owned companies and into like smaller, more niche. I've seen a lot more people, a lot of creators pop up and they're invited to smaller brand openings. And I think these videos don't get so many views, but I think that the amount of people who are coming into the space to talk about like local artists that are like their friends, it's very cool. I think that also Pierre Laborde, I can't remember his name, but those bags. I think that those bags signal a trend in people going to more local artists and more local fashion designers, and rather than waiting for those designers to blow up, actually just following in what is genuinely good art. Which bag charms died for brooches, appliques, bling. I personally, I wore a brooch the other day. Cutest shit ever. Like you stay tuned because I'm gonna wear it at one point in one of these videos. I didn't think it would work with the sweater, but like design their outfits with them and like have Sparkles, glare. Like, I think that's so cute. I think like bling going in the same direction as the way that Y2K kind of felt. Like Y2K was filled with bling, and I think it was because of where we were economically as well. It's very similar to right now. And I think like bling, party culture, both in like the Y2K way and the 20s, like 1920s kind of way, in people celebration, people getting more flashy with the way that they dress is very in. Um, People are gonna like it's gonna symbolize something a little bit deeper. At kind of like where do we go from here? I'm seeing neckties. I'm not putting this on because like the board because like I think that we've already started to see more neckties. I think people using neckties as scarves is kind of gross, if you ask me. I think it's very like you should have been doing that when Gilmore Girls was popular, but you know, um, I think that seeing it like on people's over people's necks, like a stole or like I just threw this on. I think it adds like a little bit of color and pattern to an outfit, and I think that's kind of cool if you have like a jacket. But I think that just putting it over a sweater is kind of gross, if you ask me. Um, but people have been tapping into more 2000s-esque styles and watching more Gilmore Girls, so maybe dyeing experiments on fabric really will be really in. Um, Statement and identity pieces. I think pieces that kind of stand out and make you feel kind of like that is a piece that symbolizes who you are, right? Like something that you wear every day will become very popular just because I think the authenticity conversation is not over yet. Especially as you see like more of your For You page or your following page is turning into just branded mess and people reposting the same thing, making the same video, going to Pilates, making matcha, whatever the fuck, over and over and over again, just making it something that makes you stand out and making people see that it's you and that's something that you're wearing symbolizes or like remembers, makes people remember who you are. I think that'll be um, a big part of fashion next year. My lighting has changed so much. I fucking I think both as rebellion from purity culture and because cutouts and sheer fabric are going to kind of be in that same line of movement in fabric. We're going to see a lot more because of a fixture on simplicity. I think because of draping and sheer fabrics and like a lot of movement is going to be more in. I think that we're going to see more clothes that are fitted to the body and about sort of embracing the body. I think we're going to see more cutouts. I think we're going to see more less shapeless kind of wear. I think trashy. This is more what I would like to see is like I've been obsessed with the Ashley Williams bags and shoes and dresses, which have like little bits and bobs in the actual clothes that make it kind of look like a used pad wrapper, a pencil from IKEA, like a random scrap like from somewhere, receipts, tickets, things like that in like plastic on the outside of the bag so you can have still the mystery of what's in the bag, but on the outside you can kind of get a representation of what the bag presents and symbolizes. They're so cute. I hope that we see more of that kind of stuff. Yeah. So thank you for watching. I hope you see the next videos and tell me in the comments what you think about these trends, what you want to see, what you don't want to see, and what you think we're going to see. I'm going to make more videos soon. Bye. Thank you.